Good morning, Tamara. Um, with the King's Report for October 13th, 2025. Sorry about that. I'm still working without a tech team and a little bit of a glitch there at the beginning, but it would be okay. Really apologize for Saturday. Um, I couldn't use the usual broadcasting software, and I think probably it's because it was already being used in Pennsylvania. And don't tell anybody we're using the same account here in Taiwan as we are in Pennsylvania. Maybe that's something that needs to be changed. Anyway, we are a low budget operation. And so, anyway, I tried to use YouTube instead. And good idea, except that there was a little bit of a problem with the execution. And so it did not work out very well at all. But today, it looks like I am, in fact, broadcasting on both Rumble and Twitch without any problem. So let's get right to it. Let's first to begin with our usual trip through the kingdom right now. In Chungkyung, Tennessee, 45 degrees and clear, 74 for a high today, mostly sunny and delightful. Tonight cleared and low of 48. Father's hometown in Cheongju, North Korea, currently 54 and clear. And tonight getting down to 50 degrees. Tomorrow nice and warm with plenty of sunshine, high of 73. And at the Tony Palace in Northeast Pennsylvania, it is currently 53 degrees and light rain. And then tonight or today, getting up to 53 is the high for today. That's where they are right now. The real feel is 44, so it's kind of a chilly, drizzly day, I guess it looks like. And then tonight, periods of rain this evening, otherwise cloudy, and a 51, so very little change in the temperature there over the next 24 hours. In Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, currently clear and 59. Wow, 59 in Texas there. And then today getting up to just 89 degrees, tonight clear and low of 61, so cooling down there as well. And then in at the Suncheon Palace in South Korea, 73 degrees right now, partly cloudy, getting down to 70 degrees tonight, mostly cloudy, very warm and humid, a brief shower or two this evening, followed by heavy showers late, 70 degrees for a low tonight. Tomorrow, high of 74, thunderstorm in parts of the area in the morning, otherwise mostly cloudy and humid. At the Gunma Palaces in Japan, currently 72 and partly cloudy. I'm sorry, 72 and mostly clear. Mistake there. And then tonight, getting down to 58 under partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, high of 69, cloudy and cooler, rain overspreading the area in the afternoon. And then at the Ilan County, Ilan in Taiwan, currently 86 and clear. Yes, we are still in the 90s during the day, 86 and clear right now as we go into the evening, and low of 76 tonight, partly cloudy, warm and humid, a couple of showers late. Tomorrow, partly sunny, very warm and humid with a couple of showers mainly later, and a high of 91. That's right. Middle of October, we are in the 90s. Okay. Now let's go to Father's Word. And today, let's go to here the path of the uh, person, person of the completed Testament era. Here, chapter 4 and section 3.6. And here, Father is going through the various um, declarations that he made in Jardim. Is that right? Yes, yes, yes. Section 3 is titled The Seven Declarations of Jardim and Building the New Eden. And we're on number 6. Okay, here. And this is a prayer. Okay. And the Father begins the prayer by saying that this date is October 5th, 1998. Jardim, Father Pantanal area, Father was very uh, happy and very proud of that area, saying that this is an area that has been untouched since the creation. It has all many kinds of fish and animals and sorts. And Father really enjoyed that place. Um, Here, he's speaking in Sao Paulo in Brazil, on October 5th, 1998, and it says the beginning, and he says all spirit people receive the blessing without any merit, and so they must help their descendants on the earth uh, to assist in the building of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, then he begins the prayer. I'm not going to do the whole prayer. It's in the Cheonsong-gyeong. You can look it up if you're interested. Loving Father, today, October 5th, 1998, this is the day of a Chuseok in Korea, when we attend uh, our our ancestors. And then now the Chongpyong in Korea and the Hongchunghwa, so then the Chongpyong in Korea and this Sao Paulo in the Western Hemisphere. Uh, this is a very long sentence. I don't think I would translate it all, but and all of the creation and all the spirit people in the spirit world and all of the ancestors and the saints and apostles, um, all the uh, creation that you created with love, and all humanity are now alive on the earth can now join at unity of love. We can stop there today. Okay. All right. Praise God. Praise God for the word that He's given us this morning. It's okay. Let me part of my sheet here. All right. Let's go. All right. So now, a bunch of stuff is happening, right? So first of all, Gaza. We really gotta look at that today. But before we do, we wondered through the weekend whether or not Xi Jinping was going to show up. He was scheduled to give a speech at the Global Women's Conference today, at the opening of that. And guess what? He did. He did. He indeed did give that speech at the Global Women's Conference. Now, some people are going to say, hey, it's a body double. Well, here you can judge for yourself. And I suppose that could be. Here he is standing next to his wife, and surely she would know. Also, here he's uh, walking there with, I guess, the head of the global leaders meeting on women. And I would imagine that she would know if he were a body double, but she could easily be pressured or paid off, I suppose. So, so is this a body double? I actually, now think that the stories of his having a stroke, of his being in hospital, that was actually fake news. And the question is, who would be putting out that fake news? And I've heard a number of theories. One of them is that Xi Jinping's own people have been putting this out, sort of to try and catch his opponents off guard. Um, and some people point out that, it's really too convenient that we have this. October is a very important month in the Chinese politics. Of course, today's meeting, Monday, but also a week from today, there's something called the Fourth Plenum, which is very important. And he would have to show up for that. And then also, there's I guess it's still on, a meeting with Donald Trump in Gyeongju at the end of the month, although it's not clear if Trump has canceled that or not. Uh, and so having a body double do all these kinds of things, that'd be pretty heavy duty, I would think. Yeah. And certainly you're not going to fool Trump, and you're not going to bribe him either. You're not going to pressure him to keep quiet either. So I don't know. So I if I were to bet, I would probably put my bet on the possibility that this is not a body double, that in fact this whole thing about his being in poor health was actually fake news. Some for whatever reason, it could be Xi Jinping, it could be his opponents, it could be somebody else, I suppose. And it's always hard to know what's going on behind the scenes. But in any case, it looks like Xi Jinping is in fact walking on 2 feet. At least we know that. And so I would say that we need to probably acknowledge that as a strong possibility, stronger than the possibility than him being flat on his back in a hospital. Okay. Now let's go to Gaza. All right. And President Trump is in Jerusalem at this moment. And let's see, um, the I'm looking at the updates, the live updates, and Netanyahu, I think, has just finished a speech to the Knesset, and Trump is there with him. Anyway, let's take a look at this. And he says that he's committed to this peace. And so we'll see how that works out. There's Netanyahu who says he is committed to this peace in speech to Knesset. This is an article written or published 2 minutes ago. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just said that he is committed to this peace. Let me just bring this up a bit. Okay. Following the release of the living hostages held in Gaza while speaking in his country's Knesset. So all the living hostages have been released. And Netanyahu thanked U.S. President Donald Trump, who is set to give a speech in the parliament shortly, in other words, in the next few minutes, I think, for his pivotal leadership in putting forward a proposal that got the backing of almost the entire world. So who is unhappy about this? Well, Iran, for one thing, and China too. China. And so some of the things that are going on in China with, respect to the rare earth and stuff like that, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, may have something to do with China's displeasure over this. Here we have a new update. Let's see what that update is about. Is that Trump speaking now? Here we go. Yes. Trump begins remarks to Knesset by hailing release of hostages. U.S. President Trump is beginning his speech to the Knesset. This is in real time after listening to lengthy remarks from Israeli leaders. After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious, Trump began in his speech. Okay, and 2 hostages whose status was previously unknown are now presumed dead, unfortunately. Okay. Okay, and then let's look at what Netanyahu is saying. Trump's ceasefire plan brings all our hostages home, ends the war by achieving all our objectives, and opens the door to a historic expansion of peace in our region and beyond our region, Netanyahu said. Mr. President, you are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace, the Israeli leader continued. Netanyahu suggested that his country could forge new peace treaties with Arab and Muslim countries, both in the Middle East and beyond. Abraham's children will work together to build a better future, a future that will unite civilization against barbarism, light against the darkness, and hope against despair, he said, adding that no one wants peace more than the people of Israel. Okay. And then let's look at, let's see here. Yeah, okay. But meanwhile, in Gaza itself, there's some fighting going on, but not involving the IDF, not involving the Israeli Defense Force, but involving Hamas and a certain clan. In other words, a certain family that is in Gaza City and is well armed apparently, and has has some weapons there. At least 27 people have been killed in fierce clashes between Hamas security forces and armed members of the, I guess this is the shall I call it the Digmush family in Gaza City, in one of the most violent internal confrontations since the end of major Israeli operations in the enclave. Masked Hamas gunmen exchanged fire with clan fighters near the city's Jordanian hospital, witnesses said. A senior official in the Hamas-run Interior Ministry said security units surrounded them and engaged in heavy fighting to detain them. The ministry said 8 of its members were killed in an armed assault by a militia. Medical sources said 19, what did I say? Dugmush, something like that. Clan members and 8 Hamas fighters had been killed since fighting began on Saturday. Eyewitnesses said the clashes erupted in the Tel Al Hawa neighborhood in southern Gaza City after a Hamas force of more than 300 fighters moved to storm a residential block where Dugmush gunmen were entrenched. Residents described scenes of panic as dozens of families fled their homes under heavy gunfire, many of them displaced multiple times during the war. Now, what this story also tells us, though, is that based on what we've read already, is that Hamas is certainly not giving up its arms and is certainly not giving up control over Gaza. And so that's sort of the next stage here. The first stage was the release of all hostages and the prisoners being held in Israel. And by the way, so close to 2,000 of the prisoners that being held in Israel are being released, including a bunch of people who were serving life sentences. So these are, people who have been convicted of pretty horrible crimes, and they're being released back into Gaza, where, well, probably they will try to find ways to commit more of the similar crimes. So this is going to be a simmering thing, and this is why I tend to be rather skeptical about how long this thing is going to last. It's good now. Yeah, we're all getting our dopamine fix and everything like that, and certainly a very nice thing to be happening right now. But I think we have to be realistic when it comes to what is happening in the Middle East. And we have another update here. Um, let's see. Israeli opposition leader says that Trump should be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. No, the Nobel Committee, I think, is in a little bit of a difficult position. And I'm sure when they met, their agenda was okay, we're going to award this year's Nobel Peace Prize to anybody not Trump, anybody not Trump. And now, though, President Trump is actually getting more support, I would say, for having not won the award than if he had won the award. Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid hailed President Trump in remarks to the Knesset and said the U.S. leader must be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize next year. When you were elected, you declared that you would be the president of peace. You have kept your word, Lapid said alongside Trump. The fact that you were not awarded the Nobel Peace Prize is a grave mistake by the committee, but they will have no choice, Mr. President. They will have to award it to you next year. Lapid said Trump had accomplished the unimaginable, but now Israel needs to take responsibility for next steps. Well, um, there's about 365 days between now, close to 365 days between now and the announcement of next year's Nobel Peace Prize. And 365 days in the Middle East is a very, very long time. So we'll see. We'll see. But the good news is that the announcement of the Nobel Peace Prize next year will occur right before the midterm elections. So, okay. All right. So, yeah, the 4 bodies of hostages expected to be released on Monday. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So that is what is going on in the Middle East, and President Trump is there, basking in the praise and sort of basking also in the embarrassment that it's bringing on the uh, Nobel Committee in Norway, and I'm sure he's enjoying every moment of it. That's interestingly, reporters asked him, "Does this mean that you're going to go to heaven?" And he was saying, "No, no, I'm a long way from being able to go to heaven." And so then this one article said, "Oh, this means that he knows that he's about to die." Well, presumably the reporter who wrote that either is not a Christian or is pretending to be not a Christian, or something, or just trying to write a story that is most likely to get the largest number of clicks or readers. I don't think that President Trump is referring to his own mortality at all. He's just aware of himself as a sinner, and well, and he's right, right? Unless he receives the blessing with Melania, uh, that's true. And that's not going to be enough. He has, Don Jr. and Eric and everybody else have also got to get their blessing. So and go to heaven to get together. But it's a great family right now. It's a great family. I mean, he's had a pretty rocky road getting this far. All right, a pretty rocky road getting this far, but he seems to have come to a good place, and I think Melania deserves a lot of credit. She's a devout Catholic, and I've said a lot of stuff about the Catholic leadership, but I know that individual Catholics are very much interested in developing close relationships with Jesus Christ, and I think certainly Melania is one of those, and she I think has really helped him. So yeah, she deserves some sort of prize. Maybe she should get the Nobel Peace. Anyway, so let's wait for the next 360-ish years or days. I'm sorry, not years. Although in the Middle East, a day is like a year. But let's wait and see what that yields next year. That's a long time, I tell you. It's a long time. All right. Let's go back to China. Um, and this whole thing about the rare earth controls. And I think some people are sort of downplaying it, um, but it could become something extremely serious. They're going to institute these new controls on November 1st, or they're saying they will. And so President Trump says, okay, then we're going to put another 100% tariff on all Chinese goods beginning November 1st in order to retaliate. And so they're going back and forth right now. And it's negotiation. That's why I say I'm not sure that the meeting in Gyeongju, Korea, has been canceled. I think Trump has said something about something like that, saying that he doesn't see any reason. But I think that's all part of the negotiation process. And remember, Trump is the author of the book, The Art of the Deal. So let's see what's going on here. This is an article that I think tells us a lot about, gives us some information about what's going on. Beijing's new export controls on rare earths go well beyond restricting access to a critical technology input, according to a former White House advisor. On Thursday, China's Commerce Ministry said that starting on December 1, some of the information is a little bit going back and forth. Some people say November 1, December 1. Anyway, we'll see. Yeah. A license will be required for foreign companies to export products with more than 0.1% of rare earths from China or that are made with Chinese production technology. So foreign companies will have to have a license to export those products. That prompted President Trump to announce Friday that he will impose an additional 100% tariff on China and limit U.S. exports of software. But while it seemed like the latest tit for tat exchange in the U.S. China trade war, there's much more at stake. We should not miss the fundamental point on rare earths. China has crafted a policy that gives it the power to forbid any country on earth from participating in the modern economy. Dean Ball, who served as senior advisor in the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy earlier this year, wrote on X on Saturday. So this is a pretty serious thing. And one person explained it this way. So the person said, "Remember what OPEC did in the early '70s when they said, okay, we're not going to export oil to any country, I think that supports Israel or something like that." And immediately there was a terrible gasoline shortage in the United States and many other countries, and gas stations ran out of gas, and people were lined up in their cars for blocks and blocks trying to get gas, and they would run out of gas while they were lined up, and they would have to push their cars. And I'm sure anyone who lived through that remembers what that was. So, so Xi Jinping may have looked at that and said, hey, you know what? We can do the same thing with rare earth. OPEC did it with oil. We can do it with rare earth. That may be what he's thinking. But another person also said, look, what was the result of the OPEC boycott? The result of the OPEC boycott is that today the United States is the largest producer of oil in the world. We produce more crude oil than any other country in the world. So people found a way around that boycott, and now OPEC has lost a lot of its leverage in the long term as a result of trying to get some short-term gain. So that person is saying that this is going to happen also with China. Anyway, because they say, the rare earths are not just in China. They're actually in many, many places around the world. But as this article, I think, explains later, it's just that China is the one who said, we don't care about the environmental implications of digging for these things. We're just going to go ahead and develop that industry. And, who cares about the environmental impact? So that's why China has this huge monopoly or near monopoly on rare earths right now. China has crafted a policy that gives it the power to forbid any country on earth from participating in the modern economy. Dean Ball, who served as a senior advisor, said. They can do this because they diligently built industrial capacity no one else had the fortitude to build. They were willing to tolerate costs, financial and environmental and otherwise, to do it. Now the rest of the world must do the same. So, not just environmental, but also in terms of health and worker safety, by the way. People who work in these mines are breathing in toxic dust every day. And China, the leadership in China says, who cares? This is something that we're going to do. China has a stranglehold on rare earths, producing more than 90%. Well, I've seen 80%, I've seen 70%. People don't seem to be able to agree. Anyway, this guy says 90% of the world's processed rare earths and rare earth magnets. So maybe if you qualify it that way, processed and magnets, maybe it's 90%. They are used across industries from tech sector to automakers and defense contractors. And by the way, American weapon systems also rely on imported rare earth minerals from China. They are so critical that U.S. car companies have curbed production due to rare earth shortages as China has leveraged the supply to counter Trump tariffs. While ongoing talks between Washington and Beijing have eased access somewhat, trade tensions were simmering ahead of the latest flare-up on Friday. So obviously, China is looking to get some sort of concession, and they probably will. And we'll see what that is. But also, President Trump is coming on pretty hard as well. For example, the U.S. moved to restrict other countries' exports of semiconductor-related products to China. And this past week, the U.S. announced port fees on Chinese ships, prompting Beijing to impose a similar fee on U.S. ships docking at Chinese ports. China also launched an antitrust investigation into U.S. chipmaker Qualcomm. Well, the thing about the fee on American ships docking at Chinese ports is that American ships account for very little of the world trade shipping industry, and China accounts for a substantially larger portion. So that's kind of a symbolic thing that China is doing. In other words, the United States can cut China off from the chips of today, but China can make it vastly harder to build the chips and other advanced technologies of tomorrow. Michael Froman, president of the Council on Foreign Relations and a former U.S. trade representative, said in a Substack post on Friday. Economist Robin Brooks, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, observed that markets expect Trump's new China tariff threat will backfire on the U.S. I will see. Brookings Institution is a leftist and globalist institution. I'm sure they are anybody but Trump type of people. So he may be speaking out of that kind of a bias. But he rejected the idea that China has the upper hand over the U.S., saying in a post on Sunday that its exporters are suffering steep drops in profits due to Trump's tariffs. And you know what? One person pointed out that China is extremely corrupt. And so the ability of the government to actually enforce this kind of an export restriction or export ban may be severely limited. and that especially if this raises prices of rare earths, and there's a lot of profit to be made, then people will get paid off, and people will find a way to get around the ban. The paperwork will say, "Oh, it's just a bunch of wheat," or something like that, right? And someone would be paid uh, to just sort of turn a blind eye. So the actual impact is still remains to be seen. The actual ability of China to enforce this kind of an export ban or export restriction, I think, remains to be seen. But I don't know if we want to actually bet on that. But yeah, it's if it comes to that, let's hope that it doesn't. But if it comes to that, it'll be interesting to see how corrupt China is and how that corruption will actually help the United States weather this attack. This means that China may be using rare earths to escalate the standoff with the U.S. because it has no other choice, Brooks explained. The hit is to its export sector. The hit to its export sector is just too considerable, making it necessary to raise the stakes in an effort to bring U.S. tariffs down. Okay, well, that sounds like it could be the case. For its part, Beijing remained defiant, with the Commerce Ministry saying Sunday that China doesn't want a tariff war, but is also not afraid of one. It also said the export controls are not a ban on rare earth shipments, but are a sovereign right. Former White House advisor Ball, who is now a senior fellow at the Foundation for American Innovation, said China's strict rare earth controls represent an opportunity for the rest of the world to build a new supply chain that can withstand weaponization by any one country. And again, this is exactly what happened to OPEC after the 1970s boycott. Uh, they lost their leverage. Uh, and now OPEC's ability to set the price of oil in the world is severely limited compared to what it was before that boycott. Always remember that supply is elastic, he added. If our lives depend on it, we can surmount many challenges far faster than the policy planners in Beijing, Brussels, and Washington realize. Right. Okay, so that is from fortune.com, which of course is a globalist publication. Okay. All right, so that is what is going on, and let's see what President Trump has to say about it. This is a Business Standard, and President Trump is taking this rather nonchalantly right now. He had a bad moment. Okay, if you say so. So Trump has softened his tone on China, calling Xi Jinping highly respected, even as he unveiled 100% tariffs and hinted at canceling their meeting. So he punches the guy in the nose and then says, "Oh, he had a bad moment." uh, yes, that's our guy. That's our guy. All right. All right. Now, I think this is an Indian publication, I believe. In a move to ease tensions with China, U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday, local time, said Chinese President Xi Jinping is respected, adding that Washington wants to help Beijing. Yeah, I want to help him. Okay. I just knocked him down, so I want to help him to get back up. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote, "Don't worry about China. It'll all be fine. Highly respected President Xi Jinping had a bad moment. He doesn't want a depression for his country, and neither do I. The USA wants to help China, not hurt it." I can't imagine Xi Jinping's reaction when someone reported this to him. How do you suppose he reacted? uh, Trump's remark came days after tensions between the two countries escalated, risking upending the truce. On Friday, local time, Trump announced that Washington would impose an additional 100%. Okay, we already got that. According to Trump, the decision was prompted by reports that China plans to impose wide ranging export restrictions on nearly all its products, a move that he called a moral disgrace in international trade. Trump said in a Truth Social post that China had taken an extraordinarily aggressive stance on trade by issuing a hostile letter to the international community. Yeah, they sent letters to a lot of countries announcing sweeping export controls on nearly all of its products, and even some it doesn't produce, affecting every country without exception. He described the move as a long planned strategy and unheard of in international trade. But again, We're in October, all right, and the fourth plenum is beginning next Monday. And right now, Xi Jinping, so in terms of his local politics, in terms of his internal Communist Party politics, needs to show that he can stand up to the West, right? And I think, or many people think, or some people think, I don't know how many people think, but anyway, that this is part of it, right? That Xi Jinping is trying to get through this fourth plenum without being replaced or without having his power diminished. And so he's attacking the United States for this reason, or at least the Xi Jinping team. But remember, the Communist Party believes in struggle. Development always takes place through struggle. That's the basic uh, concept of Marxism. For and Father's teaching, no, it's that development takes place through the unity of a subject and object partners centering on the um, purpose of God or the will of God. But Marxism is different. They believe in struggle. And so this may be part of his struggle within the Communist Party. And so maybe President Trump now has been sort of briefed on that fact, and so is now sort of pulling back a bit and say, okay, yeah, we'll watch and we'll see what he does over the next week or so during the fourth plenum, and then we'll have a meeting with him at the end of the month, perhaps, and then we'll see what happens from then. Uh, would impose so now imposing this duty on November 1 or earlier if China made further moves. And so then, so the new tariffs that Trump is talking about could raise the total import duties on Chinese goods to nearly 130%, just below levels reached before a temporary truce earlier last year came. And so Trump also suggested he might cancel his meeting with Xi Jinping scheduled in South Korea. I was supposed to meet the leader, but there seems to be no reason to do so now, Trump wrote. So he's not saying he's canceling it. We have to be careful of his words. There seems to be no reason. So he's negotiating right now. He's looking for some sort of a concession from China in order to uh, have the meeting go forward. Soon after tensions escalated, Beijing accused Washington of practicing double standards. A statement from China's Ministry of Commerce said repeated U.S. tariff threats were not constructive. Threatening high tariffs at every turn is not the right approach to engaging with China, the ministry stated. In retaliation, China unveiled price export curbs on rare earth minerals and related technologies on national security grounds. The ministry described these countermeasures as necessary and defensive actions and warned that it would take corresponding measures to safeguard its rights if the U.S. persisted. All right, so that's what is going on there. So we'll see. We'll continue to follow this. We'll try to figure out just exactly what is going on. But right now, there's right now. I know the markets sort of crashed during the weekend. That is to say, especially the only markets open during the weekend are the crypto market, and so cryptocurrencies crashed. We'll see what happens today. Let's see what's going on with the futures right now. How come I can't hear it? Okay, let's let's bring up that. See what's happening with futures right now. Just to, even if you're not in the market, which I'm not, it's always good to see what's happening here. Let's go here. Oh, yeah, well, actually, the U.S. futures look. Oh, I see. Today's a holiday. Today's Columbus Day. The markets are not open, but pre-trading session. Oh, okay. Well, they are trading. All right. These are futures. All right. So futures are up compared to Friday, it looks like. So I guess things are kind of settling down, and cryptocurrency is still down. And foreign exchange, the dollar is at 99. It's still continuing to rise from where it was. Okay, back up, nearing 100. Let's take a look at the graph of the dollar. So it's sort of coming back. All right. Yeah, we don't need these advertisements. Okay. All right. So interesting times. Okay. All right, let's see what else is going on here. Um, Taiwan says its chip fabs are safe from China's rare earth crackdown. Okay, well, that's good. Zelensky sees hope for end to Russia war after Trump's Israel Hamas peace deal. Well, this guy, as President Donald Trump's Israel Hamas peace deal unfolds, Ukrainian President Zelensky hopes a similar agreement could one day be possible for his own country. With Trump's help, he believes the possibility is real and said it could even warrant a Nobel Peace Prize nomination next year. Stand in line, Zelensky. Take a number if peace can be achieved. This is real success. It gives signals for us and hope that with such pressure, what President Trump used in the Middle East to make peace, and I hope that he will use the same instruments even more to pressure Putin to stop his war in Ukraine. Zelensky joined the Sunday briefing exclusively this week to discuss the prospect of peace. Okay, all right, and let's see here. Zelensky said he spoke with Trump by phone, writing on X on Saturday that he congratulated the president for the outstanding achievement of brokering peace in the Middle East, adding that if war can be stopped in one region, then surely other wars can be stopped as well, including the Russian war. Okay, let's see what happens there. Okay. All right, so very good. By the way, and I don't know if this is well, I suppose we might as well cover it. Um, Afghanistan and Pakistan, just in case President Trump is running out of wars to solve, uh, are now shooting at each other. Uh, where shall we go? Let's go. Shall we go to Al Jazeera? Yeah, let's go to Al Jazeera. So this is their home turf. So updates: Afghanistan, Taliban, and Pakistan say border clashes killed dozens. So what is going on here? One reporter, podcaster, is saying that Afghanistan wants to establish or a Islamic caliphate in Pakistan, and so that's why the Taliban is now attacking. Taliban in Afghanistan is now attacking Pakistan in hopes of being able to extend the Islamic rule to Pakistan. Pakistan today is kind of a secular state, more or less, but you know, all sorts of things happen, but a kind of a secular state. But it is also a nuclear state, and I just wonder if Taliban maybe would like to get their hands on the nuclear weapons of of Pakistan. Right? That would be unfortunate. That would be something that the world would probably not sit by and watch and allow to happen. But anyway, they're shooting at each other right now, and we'll see how this. Let's take a look at what's going on. Let's see here. Um, so maybe this is not the place where we need to go. Okay, here. Pakistan's military says it has killed more than 200 Taliban and other fighters in overnight border clashes, adding that 23 of the soldiers were killed and 20 were injured. And it added that its forces carried out infrastructural damage to Taliban posts, camps, headquarters, and supply and support networks. Afghanistan claims it killed 58 Pakistani soldiers in the fighting, and the Afghani foreign minister says Kabul achieved our military objectives last night, and that its military has paused the fighting from our side for the time being. Qatar and Saudi Arabia have expressed deep concern over the recent escalation and tensions along the border, calling for restraint and the need to de escalate. Iran said it was ready to assist. Iran is always willing to help, right? Iran ready to assist in easing tensions between the two countries. Yeah. So here, this is where things happened here. So along here, one, two, three, four, five, six places where these these classes took place, and and this Islamabad is here. Right? Uh, well, we'll see what happens here. We'll see if President Trump has the time to, to. But I don't know. Some people say, well, why don't we just let them fight it out for a while? And that may be President Trump's initial reaction anyway. But as I said, Pakistan has nukes, and we certainly want to know what's happening with those nuclear weapons. We do not want the Taliban to get their hands on nuclear weapons. That would be very, very unfortunate. Okay. All right, we'll follow that and see what happens there. Okay. All righty. Okay, we already did that one. Okay. All right, let's go back to the Knesset, see what's going on there. Okay. I have to reset this. It's okay. Trump heaps praise on Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Oh, I thought he'd heap praise on Netanyahu, but no, it's on Steve Witkoff. Okay. Watch as two Knesset members removed from Trump's speech after holding signs saying "Recognize Palestine." Okay, so there are Palestinian members of the Israeli Knesset, and I don't know if people realize this, but uh, Israel is a Jewish state, but there are also Arabs who live in Israel and have voting rights and everything. And I think that's sometimes not realized. So two people here were removed for holding signs saying "Recognize Palestine." So I would assume that they are Palestinian. Arab lawmaker. So Arab lawmaker. So are Arab lawmakers in the Knesset. Ahmed Odeh, head of the Hadash party, and Ofer Kasif, the only Jewish lawmaker in the Arab party, was removed. Were removed as Trump was speaking. Two held a sign that said "Recognize Palestine." Holding up signs inside the Knesset plenum is against Knesset rules. As the two were escorted out of the room, other members of the Knesset stood up and repeatedly chanted "Trump, Trump, 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 Trump." Yeah, so he's having a great time there. He's having a great time. Yes. Okay. So then 28 bodies remain in Gaza. Yeah. Yeah. So he deserves it. Yeah. It's probably better than, if he had received the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, the people at the Nobel award ceremony are not going to be shouting Trump, Trump, Trump. So I think he's having he's getting a better deal this way, right? All right. So let's see what else is going on here. Where shall we go? Shall we go to, um, where shall we go? Let's go to Breitbart. All right. Trump Mideast miracle, all hostages home. President proclaims peace at Knesset, beginning of the age of faith and hope. Deepest thanks to Almighty God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Netanyahu, greatest friend ever to Israel. Okay. And here Trump gets multiple standing ovations. Netanyahu praises Trump. Thank you for all you have done for us. Speaker Ohana welcomes Trump, a giant of Jewish history. Photos, scenes of joy at Hostage Square. And now a nation can begin healing. Diplomatic surprise, Indonesia president to visit Israel. That's interesting because Israel is also has actually the largest Muslim population in the world, and so it's interesting that their president is going to visit Israel. Let's see what this is about. Oh, here we go again. All right, let's see. Where shall we go? Uh, where shall we go here? Shall we go? Oh, I know. I had a good experience in Denver before. Let's go to Denver. Now, are we reconnected? Okay. Right. I hope that we are still connected. Let me stop sharing and then I'm going to share again. All right. Let's see here. Okay. In the process of doing that, all right. Am I frozen? I hope not. Okay. All right. Well, in the process of doing that, I may have created difficulty here. Anyway, I'm going to continue. Just pretend that everything is going fine. So anyway, diplomatic surprise. The president of Indonesia is okay. Egypt unexpectedly invited Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to attend a peace summit with some 20 other countries in Sinai on Tuesday. And the president of Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim nation, announced a plan to visit Israel on Tuesday. The invitation from Egypt came about at the behest of Trump, who listened in as Netanyahu spoke with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi from the Prime Minister's office in the Knesset on Monday. Okay, and also the fact that Indonesian president is coming to Israel is very important. He gave a remarkably pro-Israel speech at the United Nations General Assembly last month, calling for security for Israel and ending with the Hebrew greeting Shalom. Okay, let's see if everything is going all right now with the broadcast. Oh, it looks like we're unfrozen now. So anyway, in case you missed it, the president of Indonesia, the world's the country with the largest Muslim population in the world, is coming to Israel tomorrow. And also, the president of Egypt has invited Netanyahu to come to Egypt. So, hey, peace abounds in it, and we're about to live happily ever after. Remember what Father said. When times are good, remember the tough times. When times are tough, remember the good times. So, right now, let's be remembering the tough times. All right. So let's not get too excited about what's going on, okay? Because that can all come crumbling down at any moment. Let's see. Meanwhile, blue states expand resistance against Trump. All right. In Portland, Oregon, hundreds of naked bike riders. My goodness, this is October, guys. Join protest outside of ICE facility. Right. What is this? New Jersey governor missing? What does that mean? Governor, what's going on? Reportedly missing. Murphy reportedly missing as acting governor declared a state of emergency on Saturday night as a storm bringing heavy rains and winds made its way up the East Coast. The New York Post reported that while Murphy's office had sent his public schedule in an October 8th email, revealing that he and his wife would be going to Europe and staying until October 14th, there was no public announcement about his travel plans in light of the storm. The term limited Democrat who was known for taking frequent vacations, often to his luxe Italian villa, made no public announcement about his travel plans. Okay, it's all right. So it looks like he's going to be all right. I guess we'll be hearing from him tomorrow. Okay, so he probably figured, the other guy, he can handle it. Farage warns UK's China spy scandal may threaten intelligence relationship with the United States, right? And okay, and Keith Ellison claims there is no Antifa despite promoting Antifa handbook. Keith Ellison is one of the founders of one of these tech companies, right? Was it Google? No, oh, I'm sorry. He's the Minnesota Attorney General. That was another person with a similar name. I'm sorry. Claimed that nobody knows what the left-wing terrorist organization Antifa is, and that it does not exist despite promoting an Antifa handbook in a 2018 social media post. Sorry. Okay. And let's see. Truckers gain wages as ICE detains highway illegals. Okay. Right. I think people who are in the country legally, citizens and otherwise, are able to now get paid more. And 14 suspects arrested for involvement in train robbery scheme. Wow. I thought train robberies only occurred in movies these days, but I guess not. Family of man shot and killed by officer says shooting was justified. Hmm. Christian megastar refuses to attend awards shows. Yes, yes, awards. Yeah, these. Yeah. Christian music superstar Forrest Frank says he will no longer attend award shows because he feels the glory belongs to God, not himself. And these award shows, yeah, they are pretty much sort of the industry congratulating themselves and so forth. And the UA's Better Singer was nominated for several GMA Dove Awards this season, but he told his fans he did not intend to go to Tuesday's event. Okay, well, sounds like he's a good guy. Okay, and then Schumer shutdown halts TRICARE medical payments for military families to jeopardize care. But President Trump says that uh, military paychecks will go out this week. They were saying that, oh, something has to be passed by today, the 13th, in order for the military to be paid on the 15th. But President Trump has said that regardless of what happens, um, people are going to get paid. All right. Here, Schweitzer Mamdani family. That's the nominee, the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York. Yeah, this is in the general election that's occurring next month. Is joined at the hip with the Qatari royal family. All right. And, yeah, what's going to happen to New York is going to be very interesting. And some people say it's probably the best thing to happen to the Republican Party, that it will prove once again the evils of communism, the evils of radical Islam. But we'll have to see what he actually does. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to. That's about all we have from there. Um, let's go to Newsmax and see what's going on there. I'm sure they're leading with the Gaza stuff. Troop to Knesset, historic dawn. We'll accept it. Okay. Historic dawn. Where's the historic dawn? Here we go. Of a new Middle East. Hmm. So people are writing all sorts of very, inspiring things. We'll have to see. We hope that that is true. Hamas releases last 20 living hostages. Okay. And Trump says inflation is defeated. Okay, well, that's news. That is definitely news. All right. Where is he seeing this? Uh, Inflation has risen in 3 of the last 4 months and is slightly higher than it was a year ago when it helped sink the then Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Yet you wouldn't know it from listening to President Donald Trump or even some of the inflation fighters at the Federal Reserve. Where this is today's article. Okay. All right. Where is he saying? Where's that? Okay. Well, this is old news. This is old news. Okay. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. China is arresting many people in the underground church called the Zion Church, and Rubio on Sunday came out and condemned that. Good for him. Hostility towards Christians, yes. We call on the CCP to immediately release the detained church leaders and to allow all people of faith, including members of the house churches, to engage in religious activities without fear of retribution, Rubio said in a statement. I'd like to remind you that according to my information from a source that I consider very credible, there are four members of our faith community who are in jail currently in China. All right, that's it for today. I hope today's broadcast went better than it was on Saturday. I'll have to see. I'm going to end the streaming now. And I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to, I've recorded something to be broadcast tomorrow. Okay.